Hello everyone, welcome. I'm very pleased to see you all right here. I see many familiar faces actually. My name is Max, and as Frederic said, we have three amazing guests today. When we think about blockchain platforms, we basically think mainly about NEM, Waves, and Lisk. So I think, guys, this is a really good company to talk about Dapps and tokenization. So I think that it will be the best thing to do. The best thing to do would be actually to give the voice to our speakers to let them introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. So, yeah, as you just heard, I am Iker. I have a PhD in coding theory, telecommunications, and I got involved with blockchain technologies like 4.5 years ago. It was just a hobby back in the days. But now, as you can see, since December last year, is something like professional, as I am the head of the science team for Lisk. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ilya Smagin. I've always been like passionate software developer, and I've joined Waves like a year and a half ago. It was a relatively small company by then. By that time, like 5-6 people. Now we're around 70. We're doing cool stuff, and we're moving forward with our technology and features, and it will be great to discuss what others are doing here today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kristof and Reck. I'm interim president for the NEM Foundation. I got into blockchain somewhere late 2013, interested in Bitcoin, actually. Nobody was talking about blockchain yet. And so as soon as I learned the technology behind Bitcoin, and as soon as I realized the potential of blockchain, actually, I never really looked back. It took me until last year, I think May or something, to actually start working full-time on NEM. And until recently, I have worked on expanding NEM Europe, the operations for Europe, and a little bit broader also. Did some stuff in Russia and some other countries too outside of Europe. And now, earlier last month, I became the interim president until we have our next elections, which should be in the next couple months. And then we'll see whether I get elected as the permanent president. But I'm excited to be here and talk with these other two very interesting panel members about our technologies.
Okay, so as I said earlier, decentralized applications. Right now, let's say in 2018, it's still very hard to see what the future will bring for this area. But actually, I want to ask you, what each of you as the company and we as a blockchain industry altogether can do to consolidate blockchain decentralized applications use in mainstream.
Okay, so yeah, I will start. I would say, yeah, as you said, Dapps as a decentralized application have been with us like 15 years, right? Like BitTorrent, all these peer-to-peer application, all these protocols. So the Dapps concept, I think, is something, it's not new, and it's somehow already mainstream. But as you said, like now we have this new thing called Dapps or blockchain applications, that is a decentralized application somehow related to a blockchain, like running on top of it or in many other ways you can think of. So yeah, regarding these blockchain applications, I think I would say there are like three, for me, in my personal opinion, three key points, key concepts that we, as a whole, not only my team, as the whole blockchain industry should pursue or should achieve to get this mainstream use of Dapps. So first of all, I would like to say that, yeah, these Dapps are really new, like they're like babies, but there are a lot of people behind the scenes. There are a lot of people waiting to jump into the Dapps or the blockchain industry, and yeah, maybe we don't know why, but they are not doing it yet. They're just waiting or not aware of the whole possibility. So the first key point I would like to say is education. like to educate all the people interested, all the people that they hear, oh, what is Bitcoin, or what this can offer to me, to my business, whatever, right? So education, like to educate these people to, from the basic level, to say what blockchain is, what a decentralized application is, the cryptography behind it, and so on. And as a matter of fact, here in our project in Lisk, we have this. We recently launched this Lisk Academy. That is, yeah, basically in our webpage, you can access the academy, and it's like lessons. So you can start from the beginning, from the basics of blockchain, until like you get all these blockchain concepts as a testing yourself, and yeah, and you gain this at least the fundamental idea of blockchain. So that's for the education part. Then there are two other concepts that they go, I think, hand by hand. That are accessibility and usability of the Dapps themselves. So we need to make them as easy to use as possible, as easy to access as possible, and in other words, like we have to lower the level of the entry point for blockchain as an industry, right? Like so you don't need to be like a super experienced developer to start doing something with blockchain, but you can be just a simple entrepreneur that I don't know, Java or JavaScript or whatever, and say, oh, now I have this small computer science knowledge, but I can actually jump in and add value to the whole industry, right? So that's one of these two key concepts that we have to pursue. And just to link again with Lisk, that's from the very beginning of the project of Lisk. The idea, we had this idea of lower the level of the entry point for blockchain. And in that way, for example, we are developing this SDK or Siden development kit that, for example, someone with very basic knowledge of computer science can, with several, like 4 or 5 command lines, can generate a white-level blockchain totally functional. So that's summarizing, that's the idea, right? To have, first, to educate the people that they are eager to know more, and then to give them the easy to reach and to access this industry, and specifically Dapps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Well, I'd like to start with another thing, answering your question actually. And the thing is that the applications already exist, and there are a lot of them, and they are not decentralized, and that's okay. And now we're thinking about moving centralized applications to decentralized manner of those. And the issue is that the problems that we're facing with this is that there are a lot of industry standards for developing applications. Like, for example, they should be tested. There are good tools for writing code, for debugging code, for deploying code. And there are techniques for updating your software. And at this point, this is not what's common among smart contract developers. You just write some very short code, you deploy it, and it lives there forever. You don't test it. Well, you test it manually, but you don't have any automated testing. You don't usually have a way to update your code. And the nature of data that your application is working with is also important, because in traditional big centralized applications hosted on the data servers, there are a lot of private data. There's a lot of private data there. And when we talk about, for example, public blockchains, we can only handle small amount of public data. So you see, the challenges are not only the tooling and the instruments that we use, but also the material we work with. So I think in order for us to see decentralized applications in the mainstream, we need to first identify what applications should actually get to the blockchain. We shouldn't do CryptoKitties on a blockchain. We shouldn't do Twitter on a blockchain. Its technology is not suitable for this, and it was not built for this. So I think we should really understand what pieces of our logic, of our society mechanisms should be on a blockchain first. And I think we are advancing in this process a lot.
So what I would like to add to that is basically, I think we should think a little bit about, I think a lot of applications that are being built today are actually come from the ability to do things with blockchain, and not necessarily from solving a real problem. You know, what we see is a lot of applications actually are doing things that actually work pretty okay in a centralized world. Let's be honest. You know, so I think there are some projects that are really trying to solve real world problems, but I think not all of them necessarily have to be completely decentralized applications. You can also have applications that have a part of a small part that is decentralized, and that's actually still creating the value. In order to get mainstream adoption, I agree, you need user friendliness and things like that, but you also need to solve a problem and actually put a product in the mainstream's hands that actually people don't even realize they're using blockchain. And also maybe even using the same technology as blockchain, like public key cryptography and things like that, but maybe some parts of it will be off-chain, you know, like, and it's about finding the sweet spot that actually makes things really user-friendly, scalable, and that actually solve a real-world problem. And if I look at the landscape 2 years ago, we were far away from that. If I look at the landscape today, I see there are more and more interesting projects that are actually approaching a stage where they are really solving a problem. So I think that's we're on our way, but it's more or less time to see some projects that actually make some results, get some results, in my opinion.
So, yeah, you mentioned the thing that decentralized applications should solve problems. I actually have a follow-up thought to the whole concept. Well, we're talking about the consolidation of Dapps status in mainstream. So, do you think that whole fashion, let's say, of creating everything on blockchain, do you think this may actually hurt the process?
Yeah, I do think so. One of the things I usually do when people come to us and they say like, okay, I want to build this thing, and usually it's very ambitious ideas, and sometimes it's very interesting ideas. But one of the things I usually do is challenge these people and tell them like, why do you want to use blockchain? You know, it's like a little bit of a reverse situation where I challenge them. Why do you even want to use blockchain? And some of them actually like, they completely fail at explaining to me why they need blockchain. Others are really good at it. So I think the projects that are really good at explaining why blockchain is really important for them in their use case and how it actually benefits the end user and not just some investor or like speculation aspect in it. Because let's be honest, you know, a lot of applications are basically using blockchain in a very creative way to drive more speculation of their coin, where in the end that's not something that will create mainstream adoption. So that's the way I usually look at it, like start challenging people a little bit. And
okay, would you like to add something on this matter?
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe one thing I'd like to add is that when a lot of people are starting to use decentralized applications, tokens, for the cases where they are not actually needed, at some point this will accumulate, and this might result in bad public opinion on what we are all doing. It might become toxic, and that's the last thing we, I guess, all want here.
Yeah, and again, I completely agree with you both. I mean, I don't know if we are sounding here like we are anti-blockchain now or something, but no, it's like it's true. Like I think if you are the developer, you are the entrepreneur, the person that wants to add value somehow to the world in general. First, you have to like think very precisely, very accurate what you are going to do, and have a business model for it, right? So in this business model, itself, you are doing it right, is going to tell you like, you don't need blockchain, or you need blockchain, or you don't need tokens, or you need tokens. So I think, yeah, this is, as you said before, it was like driven by this ICO mania or something in the last year, but I think with the dust is settling now, and all these projects that they were just using blockchain for the sake of being cool are going to start disappearing, and hopefully only the good ones, those projects adding value, are going to stay.
Okay, so Ilya actually mentioned tokens. So this is going to be our second topic. The problem which I personally have with tokens and tokenization is that tokens might not be always needed, not always necessary. But we know that usually when there is a company that launches a decentralized application, they launch a token to get the funding, for example, or just to gain more popularity. So the main question is the tokenization actually necessary move to make Dapps functional and popular? And so if there is a token, there is another question. Many people just buy it to get rich, not to use it. So will this cause any sort of liquidity issues maybe in the future, because people would like to hold the dear token and not to use it, for example, to just make their life easier?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think my answer is really related to what we were saying before with blockchain in general, now apply to tokens, right? Like, I don't believe at all that tokens are necessary to reach this popular level of your Dapp. I think that is actually more important that what I was saying in the first question. The Dapp, the decentralized application needs to add value, needs to yeah, like be easy to use, provide some new use cases, or like there are like some use cases that they're being covered by a centralized application. But with this decentralized application, we are going to make them, add value in the way that is going to be somehow faster or cheaper or better in other ways. So that's the main point, right? Like, if your Dapp is actually adding value, like covering new use cases or making better other like old use cases, that's the main point, to make the Dapp popular. That if this is actually happening, your application is going to get popular at the end of the day because the market is going to demand it, right? But the token, there is no necessity in all this process to have a token. Of course, there are other, after like what I was saying before, doing your business model, you say, okay, I need a token for my Dapp because reasons, then yeah, but first do this business model and be sure that you have the necessity of this token. And yeah, I can see many situations, like I can just point out, for example, Bitcoin as a Dapp, right? It can be like the main Dapp. So Bitcoin, of course, there is like this incentive in the network to maintain the network secure. So miners are getting rewards for maintaining the network secure. So there's a clearly use of the token. But it can be another totally different thing. For example, I'm thinking now Dapp as a newspaper or a news feed, and the editors or the reviewers are getting rewards as a tokens, as doing their, like, reviewing the news, like making sure that these news are not fake and these kind of things, right? So if there is like an actual use of the token, because in your business model is clear that there is a use and a necessity of the token, then yeah, let's go and tokenize this Dapp. But otherwise, I will say it's not needed. It doesn't need to be those two concepts totally linked together. And regarding the liquidity, I am not an expert in that topic at all. I'm more like a cryptographer. But I don't know, I will say just in the same way, right? Like, if your Dapp is actually adding value, is good, is solving use cases, the market is going to demand it, and it's going to be liquidity. I will say if the Dapps, they don't have liquidity, is because maybe there is no that demand from the market, right? So I will say the market will decide and will provide this liquidity if your Dapp is good enough to have it.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I generally agree with the statement that we should use the proper technology, and if tokenization is not needed for your project, you shouldn't use it. I think it's quite obvious, right? But another aspect of tokenization is that it really works nice with blockchain. For instance, if you want to do neural networks, I don't think it's a good idea to interact with blockchain at any level or store some data at any level. But tokenization is great. So if your business benefits from tokenization, sure, of course, you should consider using blockchain if decentralization is necessary part of yours. But tokens are different too, and we should keep this in mind because, for example, we know like ERC20 standards for token, but it's only an interface. And what if you need some behavioral aspects of your token? Not only interface, like you can transfer, you can send, but what does transfer, what does send, what does other things mean? You might need tokens with more built-in behaviors, and the challenge is to define that set of behaviors that are needed for many people and still useful to majority of community.
So my opinion is that if you actually need a token and it's a utility token, then liquidity is it doesn't matter too much, right? Because you're buying something and you're using it, you're spending it. So the liquidity will be automatically, and actually the company that's actually issuing the utility token, they can also provide some liquidity if necessary. So in all honesty, I'm not really focused on the whole investment aspect of all of this. I'm more focused on the technology. So that's I don't have a lot to say about this other than if you create a valuable product and it has a utility token, I don't think liquidity is going to be your main concern.
Okay, so now let's make some assumptions then maybe. The second part's about tokenization. Let's say that the world moves forward, so Dapps are booming right now, and they, all of them actually, or many of them, create their own tokens. So let's say we're approaching the world where tokens and decentralized applications are actually useful, and they are in that mainstream. But the thing is, may that constantly growing tokenization become the problem for the market? And I mean the fragmentation of the market. Right now, we can see that, for example, in many places, when we trade, for example, tokens or cryptocurrencies, we're doing this with a pairs to fiat, for example, or Bitcoin. If we'll have more of them, and if we will actually use these tokens, will it be harmful for the market if we have, let's say, too many tokens, too many blockchains?
Don't we already have too many tokens?
Good point.
I don't know how many tokens are there, like 1,500 or 2,000 or something?
I don't know. I've just counted like only 20.
Like,
you know, I started yesterday.
Yeah, when I got into when I learned about Bitcoin in 2013 or something. Recently, I went back. You have on CoinMarketCap you have these historical snapshots. Late 2013 was around 40 cryptocurrencies or something. Mm-hmm. Today is like I don't even know what goes beyond page 2 or something. It's crazy. No, but let's be honest. What is the incentive for these projects to have a cryptocurrency? Most of them, honestly, are mainly focused on just doing a pump and dump. And there are some small projects, obviously, that are very interesting and that are really working hard and that actually want to achieve some things. But I think it's we have seen way too many projects just writing a white paper, issuing a token, and basically going into oblivion. And so I'm afraid that's the reality. And I'm pretty sure that is probably 2018 is probably going to be a shifting point where we see more projects that actually, so it becomes more difficult, right, to collect money with an ICO. 2017, you wrote a white paper, you created some hype, and you collected like maybe $100 million or something. 2018 is vastly more difficult. So I think it will become increasingly more difficult too, and sooner or later they will have to come up with a proper business plan, not just a white paper and working products, and that's what's happening. So I think that that's a good thing.
Okay.
Well, actually, I don't think many token platforms and many tokens is a problem. For example, if you look in at current situation, so for example, a lot of companies are issuing shares and going IPOs. Does that feel like a problem? Well, if no, why should tokenization look as a problem? So I think it's okay.
And yeah, in the same way, I will say maybe more like an economic point of view, right? Like I wouldn't say like fragmentation is going to be a problem, because once again, what I was saying before, if there are many tokens, but all these tokens are adding value, they are going to be demanded. So I would say it's going to be always a point of, like stabilization, like, okay, if there are more tokens than these, there are like a percentage of tokens that they are doomed and they're going to disappear. But at the end of the day, if the tokens that exist, they add value, they are going to survive, someone is going to demand them. If there are many tokens at the moment, it's possible because quite a percentage of them, they are not adding this value, and they are going to disappear in the short or long term, we will see. But yeah, summarizing, fragmentation I think is not a problem. If platforms, tokens, blockchains are adding value, they are going to be demanded and exist.
So to summarize this part in one sentence, we can agree that actually tokens are not a big problem, but it's better for Dapps and for the future development of decentralized applications to use tokens wisely and not to always think about implementing them. Okay, so the third part, it's actually more of a personal questions to you, or maybe to just your teams. What are the challenges ahead of your teams for the next, let's say, 5 years? What are the crucial segments of your work when it comes to developing safe and friendly environment for decentralized applications or token creation?
Okay, so first I want to say that for me, 5 years in the blockchain industry is like a eternity, right? Like a lot of things can happen. I hope that you you agree. So yeah, I wouldn't be brave. I mean, I don't dare to say something like our plans in 5 years, because yeah, many things can happen in between. But I can say what are the challenges now and how we are trying to solve as a whole industry and our team specifically. So yeah, in that regard, I would say like maybe one of the big challenges that they're trying to be solved at the moment is scalability, right? In the way that, yeah, like how to cope with mass adoption of your project or your blockchain. We can see now Bitcoin trying different ways. I mean, Lightning Network or changing the block size in other ways. And then Ethereum, I think they are now seriously implementing this sharding concept and so on. So if now I focus in my team and in the Lisk project, this scalability issue, this mass adoption issue, I think is something that we consider since the beginning, since the project was created. And we try to overcome it with the concept of sidechains, or a whole of a blockchain ecosystem. So where there is a main chain, the Lisk main chain, and then all these sidechains connected somehow to the main chain, right? But still they are running independently. So you as a developer, you as an entrepreneur, you create this sidechain, and for whatever application you want to run on it, but it's going to run independently from the main chain of Lisk. So in some ways, like what Ethereum was doing, or was happening right now with Ethereum, but instead of like running everything on top of the main chain of Ethereum main chain, we're going to like do this. So every sidechain will have a purpose, like a Dapps or a private blockchain or a specific project. So that's the way that we are going to overcome or try to overcome this scalability issue or this mass adoption issue, in the way that, yeah, the sidechains can be, I mean, you can create infinite, in principle, sidechains, and they are not going to affect the performance of the main chain. So in that way, I cannot say in the next 5 years, but I can say for the rest of this year, we are going to focus on paving the way of this sidechain implementation. So like developing and researching everything necessary for this to be a reality. And we have, like, I can tell you, like, several tasks already, ongoing tasks. For example, to change the fee system to like a fee system for unscalable networks. We are going to, of course, improve how the blocks and the transactions are broadcasted in the network to improve the performance of this. What else? We have the new address system, in the way that we want the address to be unique among the whole ecosystem. So one address for the main chain and the whole sidechain. So we need to as well, like, develop this idea, modularization, in the way that the main chain is going to be modular. Like, for example, a developer can cherry pick and take like one module of the main chain and apply it to his sidechain. For example, the consensus algorithm or the transactions types and this. So it can be like really easy to take one module, one piece of code, and apply it to your sidechain. And yeah, so that's all these tasks. I think that we are going to develop throughout the remaining of this year. And yeah, I cannot tell you like the next 5 years, but at least I can tell you in the next 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll call each other and I'll just tell you what he said.
Yeah, I agree with the statement that 5 years for a blockchain project is like eternity, because you know, our projects are online like 2 years, 2 years, and 2 years. So, so how do we know what will happen in 5 years? 1 year is more clear, though, at least for waves. We'll be focusing on smart contracts, make them safe, reasonable, deliverable. The idea is that we want you to write code so that you won't struggle errors like developer mistakes like happened on Ethereum. And that's like the main aspect of technical development of waves. We would, as for business development, we'd like to work with more and more businesses using our technology. And I think this is it for 2018. Well, maybe from UI side, we're also working on DEX, but I'm not here in position to speak for UI. Okay, I actually have a question about sidechains. May I ask now?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay, how do sidechains differ from different chain?
So the base of it is the same. I mean, a sidechain, or at least our idea of sidechain, there are different ideas in the industry. The idea of sidechain that we have is going to be like a totally independent and functional blockchain, but in the way that we're giving the developer of this sidechain all the tools to do this easily, to deploy the sidechain easily throughout the SDK, and somehow to have always like a point of contact between the main chain and the sidechain, in the way that if you want to send tokens to the sidechain or get them from the sidechain, in the way, so it's going to be like basically a transaction time from the main chain to send these tokens to the specific sidechain and so on. But apart from that, the whole concept of sidechain that we have is very independent from the main chain. Like, actually, it can be that someone using our SDK, this sidechain development kit, someone can like deploy like a totally independent blockchain, totally running by its own, because yeah, it's going to be open source and someone like will give the tools to do this. But the idea is to form this whole Lisk ecosystem in the way that, and as we are running this depots system, the delegates that they are now securing the network, they are assumed to as well support these sidechains and provide the security of the other networks. So it's going to be like a synergy between the developer and the Lisk ecosystem or main chain.
Yeah, maybe we move to Kristof first.
Well, we can discuss it
Let's finish
later.
the round.
Sorry, guys. I know you will get lost in all this technology. No, so yeah, for NEM, we have quite a lot of challenges ahead of us. Our developers have been working on the new version, which is actually was actually built from scratch again. So NEM 2.0, the code name is Catapult. They've been working on that since January 2016. We are nearing, so we are currently doing the beta testing, which is pretty challenging, but it's really going very well. So it's hopefully within a year we will be able to do the public release. We're currently exploring our roadmap to do that release. Technically, it's not very challenging, but there's a lot of things that are involved with that. So from a technical perspective, I think we will be pretty busy doing those things. There's a very nice roadmap for additional features that is starting to like really take shape. I'm currently pushing everybody to actually work on the roadmap and finalize it so that we can start to be more transparent on what our roadmap is ahead, where, in all honesty, our developers are always very much focused on developing and not much on like communicating all the features, but there's some very, very interesting features there, so I would really like to share that. And actually, in my personal opinion, our biggest challenges are not on the technology. Our biggest challenges are on the organizational level. Finding the right people to educate about the NEM blockchain, scale up the organization, making sure that we can provide the proper support to businesses, because with all the crypto hype, actually it's crazy. Like last year, I was still planning to do active business development and everything. We completely stepped away from that. We are very happy that we can still keep up with the demand. At least we try to keep up with the demand. So we're creating lots of resources internally for training, also business development. We're setting up a service provider program. So those are actually my day-to-day challenges. I'm very lucky. We are actually very lucky to have some good developers. We're currently still hiring. I think we're still hiring 10 more developers for the tools and everything. So finding the right people and building the organization on a global level, because we had a lot of activity early on in Asia, and now we are scaling up the teams here in Europe and starting to work on expansion in the US too. And that's, in my opinion, the most challenging part. So, because it's really difficult to find people that really understand the true potential of blockchain. There's a lot of people that are interested in blockchain and that have a basic understanding of the technology, but so getting them up to the point where they actually can assist businesses and actually find the sweet spot where blockchain is really providing value, that's one of the main challenges I see today, and probably over the next 5 years too. I don't see that challenge being solved in the next year or something. But on a technology level, obviously we will gradually see more challenges, and it's difficult. I agree with these guys. It's difficult to predict that far in the future.
Okay. Thank you. I think that we still have like 7 more minutes, so I guess that it's time for a Q&A session. Are there any questions from the audience? Just raise your hand up, and Frederic will pass you the microphone.
Hey, so as a developer looking into getting into the blockchain development business, would you guys have some general suggestions of, where to go, how to start at, people to talk to? I mean, networking in general, of course, but maybe some specific concrete things like start with Ethereum, start with Solidity, do something else, make a Dapp, so something like that. How did you guys get into blockchain development, and how would you suggest somebody at this stage getting into it?
You do realize you are asking this question to 3 people that are highly involved with their baby as a blockchain, right? So we will probably, all 3 of us will probably say like start with our blockchain, because I think both, all 3 of us, like NEM, Waves and Lisk, all of them are taking a pretty similar approach, I think, but where Ethereum is like, I think, a lot more complicated and so in my personal opinion, it's difficult to give you any advice on this. I would say try to find a blockchain that's easy to develop on, so that you can do some fast prototyping and learn how blockchain can like benefit and how you can build on it. But I think these guys are more technical, so they might have some interesting ideas on that.
Yeah, I think starting to code for blockchain should actually start with learning how blockchain is different from other technologies, like understand its limitations, that there are things like immutability, things like limited throughput, things like inalterable contract and other stuff. Like the data that you could access on a blockchain is can only live inside blockchain and things like this. So I think a good start is maybe even some Coursera videos explaining what blockchain is and what limitations it have. And after that, yeah, I think you could look around and choose the project that suits your first pet project most.
Yeah, I think I don't have anything else to add. I totally agree with what has been said. I would say, well, as with everything, we have the internet is totally open for us. I think now, I mean, most of all the blockchain projects are open source. So is for a developer, I think is like a candy. You can just go there to the GitHub repository and start checking what's here, what's not. Like, do I understand this? Do I like this? No, I think it's this open source idea. It makes it so easy for someone with the skills, the coding or the computer science skills to just get the grasp the idea easily and know, is this what I want, or is this what I interesting for me or not? I think it's, yeah, nowadays it's super easy to get that feeling.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
I have 2 questions actually. The first one is, you mentioned a lot of challenges. Are there any challenges coming from the political regulatory environment? That's the first one. And the second one is, if you look at the ecosystem in Europe, is there a place where you would say it's better to start working on blockchain from this political regulatory environment than others?
Yeah, so, well, the first question, is totally out of my reach. As far as I know, in our company, we are doing everything legal. So I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't know how is the specific regulations and how they can affect like a specific job or not. I mean, I know the basics and what you can read in the articles and blogs, but I cannot like properly give you an answer. I can give you something like regarding more the technical part, but maybe not in the political part. The second question, yes, I think well, this is my opinion as well, but I can give you my opinion in the way that and actually if you Google what is the best city for blockchain or the best European city for blockchain, I think you will find the answer like Berlin. And as a matter of fact, we are based on Berlin. But I think in Berlin there are like every week you can find more than two or more than three actually like meetups regarding blockchain in any topic regarding inside blockchain. Can be political stuff, can be something technical. Then apart from Lisk, I think there are like other 5 or 6 startups related to blockchain or maybe more, maybe I don't know the exact numbers, but I know the scene in Berlin is really active with the startups in general and specifically with blockchain industries. And for example, I think that IOTA is well there, or they have an office, and Ethereum, I think they have an office too. But yeah, anyway, I would say like Berlin, because I am there, I think it's a really, really good place in Europe to go there to feel the vibe of blockchain and the whole startup idea. Yeah.
Well, the question was about legal concerns for blockchain, and the second I forgot. Okay, of course, legal concerns are an issue for blockchain, and tracking digital identity is part of legal thing here. So if you're more interested in this topic, I suggest you find Arnold Daniels here in this audience. He's from Legal Things. He'll tell you a lot more about legal stuff and blockchain altogether.
I think we need to distinguish also between blockchain as a technology or ICOs and tokens. There's a very big difference, obviously. Blockchains in itself, there are some issues. There are some considerations with regards to regulation that need to be taken into account. Obviously, it's very complicated. What I can tell you is that I know that within the European Parliament and the European Commission, they are taking a pretty proactive approach. They are actually working on regulation, both for ICOs and blockchain. It will probably take a long time, right? We know that regulation usually takes a long time. But what I experienced with talking with a lot of people in the politics actually is that, and this is mainly in Europe, right? So what I experienced is that in Europe they're really taking the approach that they don't want to put a halt to the innovation. So that gives me the confidence long term that that in Europe we're pretty good, like well situated long term. With regards to which is the best place in Europe to be. In all honesty, I have traveled through over the past year, probably every European country, and they all claim they are the biggest blockchain center. So it's pretty difficult, but there is some, from my objective opinion, I think Zurich area and Zug is like very active, mainly because of the fact that Switzerland is already taking actually already came up with some regulation for blockchain, and some good, how should I say, mainly looking at which are the best regulatory environments to start on with blockchain and even ICOs. Usually it's the smaller European countries. So there's like, I know I met some people from Gibraltar and Lithuania and Liechtenstein and all those small things in Europe, small countries. They are basically seeing the potential of the technology, and they try to win a lot of projects and blockchain startups for themselves. But it's important to do a proper assessment before you incorporate something. So well, there are some lawyers that are really specialized in this, and it's important to do a proper assessment.
Okay, I believe the last one question. There's a gentleman in front who raised the hand.
Hey everybody. So maybe my question will be not very comfortable for you because I'm sitting here on the first row with a lot of people listening to you and you still sounds like a corporation. So there were no words about people, a lot words about the technology, the development, your development of your company. But when Satoshi made all of this, it was about the hope. It was about the freedom. It was about the community. So the principal question is, how you big guys gonna help other projects who's going on ICO, who's trying to make something new, could help, really help, not about the education, but the really help. So I want you go back to the very beginning, where the Satoshi or Vitalik started. It was not such a lot of marketing. So my question is, how you big guys will help other guys from the community to be as good as you, to make people free?
It's a good question, and in my opinion, not that challenging or something. I told earlier, you know, it's about creating value for the end user, right? And that's what it's all about. It's all about people. In all honesty, if you want to start a project, I think a lot of the blockchain projects that are available already make it very easy to start an ICO or something, create a project on top of a blockchain product. So I think that's already a lot of help you are getting. If you look at these 3 blockchain projects, they had we had a lot of work, and obviously it's not that we didn't work really hard to become big. But as a NEM Foundation also, we do assist projects with some things. Obviously, you need to take into account that there's a very high demand for support, and obviously we need to make sure that we can support everybody equally. So that's the main challenge. But in the end, it's all about the end user and putting value for the end user. And if you have very good ideas, then you will probably get some good support with one of the blockchains. But obviously, it's up to everybody to put in a lot of work themselves too. So.
Yeah, in Waves we have ways to help projects too. We have Waves Lab acceleration, project that will help you with ICO and other steps of the process. If you apply there and you'll be selected, well, Waves will help you.
Yeah, in the same way. Well, first I will answer like in general. We are still like open source projects, so anyone can go and contribute. And actually we have, I mean, and every day seeing like people that I don't know personally, they are like just a nickname on GitHub, and they are like contributing, adding value, commenting, suggesting changes and so on. Actually, there is one guy who was really active the last 2 weeks, and I think we are going to try to meet him in person because like he was by his own, not there is no contract at all. He was just enjoying like the open source and making all these changes to the Lisk project. So I think like if the individual wants to contribute as an open source, is still an open source. And in more specifically for Lisk, still we have as the same way as Waves. I remember like 2 or 3 months ago, our CEO Max Gordek, he implemented this how is the name, like Pioneers Bowl, that you can Google it maybe, and he's like putting like a huge percentage of his stake, like what he got in the ICO for all these for the growth of this Lisk environment, in the way that all these sidechains that they will implement some decentralized application, he put that money there for them to get the funding. So everything that wants to make something or contribute in the Lisk ecosystem, they can apply for these funds, and if the project is good enough, they will have the funds and they will implement the idea in the Lisk ecosystem.
Okay, thank you very much. This is everything for today. I hope that David will forgive us for being a little bit too late. Okay, once again, Kristof van der Reck from NEM, Ilya Smagin from Waves, and Iker Alustiza from Lisk. Thank you very much for attending our discussion panel. If you have any further questions, I believe that you'll be able to ask our panelists right next to the stage or anywhere at our expo section. Thank you, gentlemen, once again. And, well, I guess that we have to clear the stage.
Thank you.